Oh, cool.
Oh, and you can see his signature in the corner.
That's awesome.
The Augmented Archives project is a collaboration between Educational Technology and the Miller Library Archives and Special Collections. Through this project, we're exploring the use of augmented reality technology. With Washington's Secret History, what we were asking students to do was to handle these primary resources that we have here in our collection. They were specifically handling books that we have in our rare books collection. We were asking students to learn all that they could about these rare books by interacting with them, and then to take that knowledge that they accumulated and to condense it into a format that could educate others. So the students, after doing their research with this object, with these rare books, they went out and they created a small caption that sort of speaks to the crux of this book, or a specific part of this text that they really want the viewer to understand, and something that makes this text special. When the viewer scans that caption, the digital interface comes into play, and images of what's inside of the book pop up. Links to websites that help contextualize that book pop up. And now the viewer has access to these rare texts that many people don't have access to. More importantly, or equally as important, it gives them access to the students' work and the students' understanding.
I'm Dr. Heather Calloway, and I'm the archivist here at Washington College, and my role with Washington's Secret History was to help bring artifacts and rare treasures for the students to work with. I want students to be able to know that the archives is not a forbidden place. It's actually a place of learning, and where they can enjoy coming in and learning some history and then teaching others with what they create.
It was definitely a great experience to get to work with rare books and rare artifacts throughout the week and actually get to touch them instead of stare at them behind a glass. My book, or books, I have two, and they're both The Lady of the Lake. They were personal belongings of two different women. One was Sophie Kerr and the other was a woman named Mary Poe. They were published through different publishers, but the interesting thing was they had the same illustrations by Sir John Gilbert.
My name is Sarah Graff. I am the student leader for the Washington Secret History Pre-Orientation Program. I am a history major with a theater minor, and I'm also Heather Calloway's archives assistant. After school, I really want to go on to graduate school to become an archivist. So working with Washington Secret History, it allows me to see how different people work with both the new technology as well as the old books that we have in the archives. So I was able to teach first-year students, one, how to turn the page or like hold open these fragile books without being afraid of them. And so I think that will translate well into my possible career to help researchers be more comfortable with these archival resources.
That was definitely a good way to start out the school year. My book is kind of an interesting one. It's a satirical review on Victorian life as through the lens of a mock Samuel Pepys diary. That was done by an illustrator and an author duo that came from completely different walks of life and sort of came together for the project.
I'm Courtney Rydell, and I'm a professor in the English department here at Washington College, and I'm our medievalist, and so I have a lot of training in archives, rare books, manuscripts, things of that nature, and so that's what I was bringing to our pre-orientation program.
Doing the research for the book, I felt kind of like a detective, just trying to figure out this book's secrets. Found B. Thorpe at the end of the preface, and I was like, And so I was doing all of these Google searches, and I was gradually piecing the picture together, and then I found the publication page, and it was just, yeah. Oh, that makes sense now.
I'm Raven Bishop, and I'm an instructional technologist at Washington College.
My role in this project was to help students gain the technological skills they would need in order to create their augmented reality exhibit. Most of the students had not heard of augmented reality prior to encountering Washington's Secret History, and certainly none of them had had an experience with an augmented reality authoring platform. None of them had had the experience of working with this technology. So in a short 1-week experience, it was a steep learning curve to get students to be able to work with this technology. They were highly enthusiastic and definitely motivated to create something wonderful. And so it was a really inspiring experience to get an opportunity to work with these young people and to help them grow as students and as creators.
Putting together the project using the technology. It's the same technology as Pokemon Go, which is augmented reality. It involves combining digital, audio, and actual interfaces all together on a screen.
Augmented reality technology is an emerging technology which allows viewers to superimpose digital interfaces on real-world objects. So it's a natural connection for our archives and special collections. When an object is on display, we can have viewers scan this object or a caption about the object with their phones or with an iPad or other mobile device, and other information pops up. We can link people out to websites. We can link to curator videos. We can link to objects in our collection that are too delicate and too fragile for a viewer to interact with. And suddenly, through augmented reality technology, these things become accessible.
Augmented reality in archives is new. We haven't seen a lot of it used out there yet, and so I see this as a great way for us to change the way we are engaging with the artifacts. So we could take something out and digitize it in various ways. So whether we scan it or photograph it or whatever, use technology so that we can enhance it, and then people can see the artifacts close up. They could put it online, and they could have a way to access it through the web. The artifact will be preserved and conserved longer because it's not being handled or it's not on display necessarily, but more in a virtual setting.
Basically, the technology allows you to turn the page of a book that's hidden behind a thick piece of glass. So having augmented reality can really open the eyes of people who may not be able to go to places like the National Archives or the archives here at school, and still be able to see these amazing works of both art and printing technology, as well as just new ways of learning.
But augmented reality creates the possibility of a curated experience where you, as the non-specialist, get to see things and understand things that only an expert would.
Helping students to understand that this emerging technology of augmented reality is actually part of a longer lineage of technological innovation was really important in Washington's secret history.
Thanks to Lindsay Lusby at the Rosenneal Literary House, we were able to go into the print shop there and have students work with our antique leather press. I think that you can't understand the value of early printed books as easily if you've never had the experience of trying to make them. These things are technologies, right? A book, a codex, is a technology. And it's so familiar to us, we forget that it's a technology, and yet in actuality it is. So I think hopefully they can understand that you want to choose your medium and your technology wisely, that affects the type of information you're able to convey. And at the same time, there's some things that can hold true over multiple different media.
We started with a book from the 1500s that was written by hand. It's an illuminated manuscript, it's hand-bound. Then we took them a step further to this technology that hasn't quite hit the ground hard yet, and let them use that. So throughout the course of this week-long experience, students went from the 1500s to somewhere beyond 2016 and saw how all of these technologies really work together and are part of a single lineage of the spread of ideas and knowledge.
I think a project-based learning experience makes the theoretical practical, which is really helpful for a lot of students. I think it incorporates students with different learning styles a little bit more. I personally learn incredibly effectively through reading and writing, but that's not how everybody learns best. And even those of us who are very adept at learning through reading and writing will have that information reinforced so much more through an actual experiential physical encounter. Project-based learning also tends to be so much more collaborative. It moves students out of the illusion that scholarly knowledge making is a solitary process. In reality, it never is.
When students take on the role of curator, they suddenly stop being the consumers of content and they become the creators of it. And that's a really important distinction, because what's happening is the learning becomes real and the stakes change a little bit, right? The conversation isn't anymore between the teacher and the student or the student and a piece of paper, but it's really a conversation between the student and the wider world. They're learning that learning has an impact on the world and that their scholarship has an impact on the world. And that's really what we want our students to hold on to and to take forward into the world. So when we treat students as creators, we are giving them a great deal of agency over that learning, and we're expressing to them the notion that that learning matters, that it has an impact, and that they have an impact in the wider world, wider community.
I like that a lot.